Hey, this is Bobby Davidson from Coder Foundry, and we're here talking with Kristen Leake. She is a UX analyst from CapTech Ventures, and we're going to talk about just the tech community in general, like her experience with the Bootcamp, how she broke in. And I think if you're trying to break into the coding industry, I think she has a lot of eye-opening things that would be very beneficial for you to listen to because she's obviously broke in. So just tell us a little about what is a UX analyst for those people out there who don't know what that means. What does a UX analyst do?
A UX analyst, in my opinion, is pretty much a UX researcher. So as the designers and the developers build a product, whether that's a web app or website, I take what they have and test it. So there may be a concern about the usability of it. So I may do some prototype testing, or we may have some questions around the content, and we'll get some users in to do some card sorting. So there are a number of tests that I would do to help us make the best design decisions for a product.
Okay. What is the kind of the tooling around? I'm kind of interested in that. Like what stuff do you use to do your job?
Oh gosh, so using many things. Definitely use a lot of the Sketch app, since that's what our designers use, and that's connected to Envision. And Envision is I think it's a pretty friendly prototyping tool. And so whatever you design in Sketch, you can connect those screens together to make a working prototype without coding. So those are my two favorite tools, but there's a number of others like Axure, which has a bit more of a learning curve and also incorporates coding as well.
Okay. All right. So tell us about your journey. So how did you get to CapTech Ventures? I know that you went to a boot camp. In full disclosure, you didn't go to ours, which is, we don't hold that against you. That's okay. And the reason I wanted to invite you in is because I'm really interested in the journey to break into coding, because I feel like coding or tech industry in general is like the economic mobilizer of our time. Like if you could just get in, there's all these opportunities. And the fact that you're a UX analyst, you went to a boot camp, just shows there's multiple paths to success. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I went to a coding boot camp in 2016. And afterwards, after the 10-week program, I did apply to some jobs, but I got rejected, like I'm sure some other people have experienced, due to my lack of experience. And so I started a web design business on this side. So I think that helped a lot with gaining more experience and learning how to work with clients, and also learning all the mistakes that we can learn from. So that built up my portfolio, and that made me a stronger candidate for when I did start looking for a job again. And what I did differently this time around was I looked for an internship. And so at the time I was really interested in UX because I discovered it through doing web design, and I got a UX internship. And I think that's what opened the door to getting to where I am at CapTech.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. It looked like you didn't wait for the opportunity. It sounds like you went out and grabbed it by, hey, if no one will hire me, I'm going to go hire myself and kind of do work for others. Is that true? Or, I mean, we had to do sometimes out of necessity, but I know that's true for me. I mean, people look at me differently now, but they don't look at me 20 years ago when I was sitting in a bookstore with no job and I just started a company to make websites for people. That sounds like that's what you did.
Exactly what I did. I went to a lot of meetup events and other community tech events. And I just told people, yeah, I'm a web designer. I have my own web design business. And was I confident in my coding abilities and my design abilities at the time? Absolutely not. But I had mentors, like my teachers from the coding boot camp and a couple of friends who actually work full-time as developers. So they were just a phone call away. So I felt completely confident in the ability to start my own web design business.
Okay. That's interesting, because what I want people to realize is like the path that we're all on is like a journey. And then when I talk to a lot of students, they feel like if they don't if they're not working on Visual Studio at Microsoft out of the boot camp, they failed in some way. And so like there's a way to like there's different jobs and different journeys, and the job you land out of a boot camp isn't your first job, and it's not going to be your last. Talk about that as you build a career and not necessarily a job.
Yeah, so like you said, it is pretty grounding experience once you leave coding boot camp because your expectations are really high. You definitely have to be open to other opportunities that come your way, whether it's, like volunteer work for a nonprofit who needs help, or like I said, I took a pay cut and worked as an intern. So yeah, just being open to those opportunities.
Okay, that's cool. That's great work. The other thing that I heard you mention is that your website side business or your full-time business, it allowed you to build your portfolio. Talk about how your portfolio worked into getting the current role that you have. Is that something important?
Oh, yeah. I truly believe that your portfolio is really important. And what I also did in my portfolio is not only did I show the websites that I built, I also incorporated how I built it. I noticed this during interviews when people would ask me, they're asking me about how I applied user experience to the navigation bar, things like that. So I started to show those things in my work, show the stages from start to finish in my portfolio. So
Okay.
even if you only have a to-do app from your boot camp, or maybe something you may think is really simple and common, like show your thought process through your portfolio as well.
Yeah, we have a process here at Code Foundry where we talk about your code, where we're trying to train people to demo their projects, but talk about like how it's constructed, how things are put together, how it works. And I think if you can tell an interviewer how something works, whether it's like you said, a to-do app or something really complicated, if you can explain the process, you're such a stronger candidate when they're looking to hire people. Is that what you feel?
Yeah, definitely, and especially in the user experience field, because there is a reason behind everything you see on the interface. The placement of the button, which may seem really simple, like there's a reason why it's located where it is.
Right. I mean, Twitter didn't get 140 characters by accident. I mean, I feel like they set out with a design and they made a simple user interface. Same thing with Google. If you look at the white page with the simple box, the people there's a lot of thought that goes into all of those things. And so I think that people really underestimate like how the portfolios look on the UX side. We talk to people all the time that says, if it looks janky, then they probably think the code behind it's janky. So like, talk about that. Does your portfolio have to look good as well?
My portfolio was really clean and simple, very minimalist style. I remember one of the things I was most proud of my first portfolio was a website I did for a catering company here in my city. And it was pretty simple. It didn't have bells and whistles, no animations or anything, but the layout, I believe, was just simple to the point. I wasn't trying to be fancy with it.
Okay. I think that's a good approach too. I think minimalist, it went a long way with Apple. They have one button on a phone. And I think minimalist approach is definitely in right now. What else could an aspiring person that wants to break in this tech, let's say they're in the interview phase, what else could they do as they try to break in and get that first job?
Get involved in the community. Go to meetup.com and search programming or coding or whatever you like to use, whether it's React or Angular, and just look for other organizations that are having events and connect with other people there. There's often recruiters at those events. There's other professionals who could eventually become your mentor. There's peers who you could collaborate on a project with. That truly is how I got so connected with job openings and interviews. That was the best way for me.
Okay. Now, are you active on social media? Did you use that as well? Do you think that helped you out? I know you have a YouTube channel and you've done some things there. Does that help you out too?
Not quite as much. I'm not as active as I used to be, so It could be different today, but a couple years ago, I was really active on Instagram. Actually, no, I take that back. I am pretty active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So that's actually an excellent point. One tip I like to give people, especially if you use LinkedIn for applying for jobs, I will look on the side of LinkedIn, on the little sidebar of a job ad on LinkedIn, and look at who is connected. And I click on that person, and then I would send them a message. I would say, hey, my name's Kristen. I just applied to your UX developer role, and I just want to give you a face to my name.
Wow. Okay. So like that's really deep. A lot of people don't know about that. I mean, like you have to like kind of go get these jobs. What we tell students all the time is like if you wait for just your resume submittal to come in, there's a recruiter usually working on the back end that's trying to leapfrog or has leapfrogged over you. But if you can make that personal connection, that email or that connection, say, "Hey, look at me! Hey, I'm here. I just submitted my resume," and you have a better chance of them actually reaching out to you and getting that interview.
Definitely. I even emailed to not emailed, but I messaged people at companies like Pinterest,
Hmm.
and they actually responded and said, hey, thanks so much. I looked at your application. We are looking for someone with more experience, but please apply back again in a couple years. We'd love to sit down and talk to you in the future. So,
Cool. That's
mhm.
neat. Yeah, we had a guy here that used to work here. He just left, and he got his job off Twitter. He tweeted about something, and then the company actually reached back out to him, and he got hired away. And
Oh,
I'm
wow.
not salty about it at all. I mean, but not really. We're really good friends. I like him. I'm glad he got a good gig. But like, I just know that social media, and specifically LinkedIn, recruiters are using LinkedIn almost exclusively now to find people. And I don't think if you're in your social game and you're just on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, you don't know that the power of LinkedIn and how you can use that to really kind of connect with people you normally couldn't reach.
Right. Yes.
Did you use a recruiter at all? Do you work with recruiters or?
Um, I tried working with recruiters. Right now, there's only one that I trust. I've had
Okay.
experiences where I applied to, I applied for a UX researcher position, and it turned out to be an A/B testing position, which wasn't really A/B testing, and it was just an absolute mess. So
Right.
I got to the point where I would screen out recruiters. Like I would specifically want to know what the job is. I'm not gonna get on the phone with you. Like, tell me what exactly the job is.
Right.
And
And
so,
I think a good recruiter should be able to tell you those things. And I mean, no one's going to get tricked into a job. I don't know why some recruiters do that. But like in general, if they're upfront with you and you're upfront with them, I think you can make them, you can utilize them to great success. All right. Let's talk about one more thing. So it sounds like you had a pretty good boot camp experience. Anything you want to talk about your boot camp and how that helped you break in? And
aspect of the boot camp that helped me was the community. I really made a point to connect and get to know my instructors and even our community organizer, because they are also reaching out to other companies as well. So by keeping in touch with them even after the boot camp, sending them emails about like, hey, I had an interview for this job, but didn't get it. That's my update. But they would still respond back with, oh, well, I'm sorry the interview didn't work out, but I heard such and such is looking for a developer or things like that. So staying in touch with them, because they really made a point to help me find a job when I was ready.
okay. So I know we talked about the list before we came on. What do you think about women in tech? Do you think there's roles? Obviously, you have a role in there, and you've navigated these waters, and you're working in tech now. What advice do you have for other women or people of color trying to break in? What's the thing that you can tell them to give them hope that it's something that they can achieve?
Yeah, I say get connected with other communities. I'm sure you've noticed that's a trend when I
Hmm.
talk about connections are really important. There's a group that I absolutely love and I'm a part of called Tech Ladies, and we focus on connecting with companies who want more female developer, female designers. And so just being in that community, and there's even more like that. There's even conferences as well for women in tech, and it's just become a really great movement. So don't feel like you are alone. And oftentimes I just tell myself not to even think about the discrimination that can happen. It depends on the company. And honestly, if a company isn't interested in hiring me because I'm a woman or because I'm Black, then I don't want to work for them. I'm going to support someone else.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I talk to a lot of students all the time, and like, if they don't want to hire you because of those kind of things, then you don't want to work there anyway. I learned a big lesson about this. I remember I was doing a podcast, and a lady had come in, and she was talking about bracelets that you could program. And the bracelets that you program, then your friend would walk up, and they would glow green or pink, depending on which friend was near you. And they were teaching girls to code by doing these bracelets. And it just remarked on me that when you bring other like women into your organization, ideas are always presented from a different point of view, and you get different solutions in different things. And I remember commenting to her, like, in a million years, I would have never thought of building bracelets that you could program and they would glow next to your friend when you walked up in school. And she had it in Target, which was like something I had never done. And I just learned a big lesson in that 3 years ago. Like, wow, if you have these different point of views, you can come across different solutions, and sometimes better solutions that are just that you wouldn't have thought of, that you can break in with. And I think that's the offer I would say to anyone trying to break in. If you can get the skills, then try to break into this industry. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Your story just proves that it's really valuable to have a well-rounded team of different genders and races, because we all have different ideas, and if we can come together and build something together, it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's cool. So what other things can you add? We talked about a little bit about like your attitude towards certain things. How does your attitude role play into you breaking into that first role?
Yeah, I know we were talking about this earlier. I truly believe, like, especially when walking into an interview or just meeting people in general, the way you carry yourself is really important, because that's also, well, most likely going to be how you are when you are collaborating on a team, which is definitely vital to the project as well. So just being able to communicate, be able to put your guard down, be able to say, I don't know when you don't know, but still being able to step up when you need to and show those skills that you've worked hard to obtain.
Yeah, my new thing, as we were talking about, is like, I think being nice is the new superpower. Like,
yes!
People are always trying to tear each other down on Twitter, when it's so much easier to build someone up and encourage them, instead of saying, you're dumb or stupid or whatever it is. And then whereas you can build them up and edify them. And I think when have teams are put together like that, they accomplish great things. So
definitely, it's one of the things I love about CapTech, because our CX team is just really open to feedback, but no one is ugly about it, and everyone will actually take that feedback to improve themselves.
Right, and that's the whole thing about this, and especially in coding in general. Like, I always tell young programmers that bugs happen, things happen. And teams that respond to those things in a positive way are ones that are most successful. The ones that beat you over the head because you make a mistake are the ones that ultimately lose. So, I don't know. I would say be nice, have a great attitude, and I think that's the biggest thing you can do to break in, because, it's important to build those team structures and win for the team.
Definitely.
Okay. Well, Kristen, I have enjoyed talking to you. You're a fascinating person, and I wish you all the luck in the world. Anything else that you would like to mention before we get off?
I guess I'd like to mention to just look into other organizations, like national organizations. Like, I'm a part of IXDA, which stands for Interaction Design Association. And so we're a group of like front-end developers, UX designers, and we have events in multiple different cities. And so just definitely connect in an organization like that, like Google, or go on meetup.com to find out how you can also educate yourself outside of the boot camp or outside of work.
Okay, well, great. Well, I hope this helps a lot of people out there today, that there's multiple avenues to break into this industry, multiple career paths. multiple ways you can learn. You just don't have to come to Coder Foundry. You can go other places and learn, and then building that portfolio and then being excited about what you're doing, talking about your code. And soon you'll break in this industry and you can follow Kristen's path, who's doing a fantastic job at CapTech Ventures. Well, I appreciate you coming in, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, Kristen.